Ifeanyi's footsteps echoed softly on the cool tiled floor as he moved toward the window, the slight creak of the floorboards beneath him the only sound in the stillness of his apartment. He paused, pressing his palm against the glass, feeling the coolness seep through his skin. Outside, the city was awakening in earnest. His eyes rested briefly on the chaos below, the street vendors setting up stalls laden with fragrant spices and ripe fruits, children chasing each other with carefree laughter, and the distant hum of traffic blending seamlessly with the melodic call to morning prayers from a nearby mosque. The familiar sounds comforted him, grounding him in the city he had called home all his life. The air was thick with the smell of frying plantains and the distant aroma of fresh bread from a bakery down the street. But today, a knot twisted in his stomach, a restless unease he couldn't shake. It was as if the usual symphony of Lagos harbored a dissonance just beneath the surface, mirroring the turmoil stirring within him. Ifeanyi was a man in his early 30s, lean but strong, with a sharp gaze that missed little. The lines etched across his forehead and around his eyes told stories of struggle and perseverance, each wrinkle a testament to battles fought and won. He wore a simple white shirt, its fabric slightly faded from many washes, and worn faded jeans, the uniform of a man who worked hard but wished for more. His job was in construction, a field that demanded both muscle and precision, and he was known among his colleagues for his reliability and quiet dignity. Yet beneath the calm exterior, something simmered, a secret worry he kept close to his chest. He reached for his phone, scrolling through messages briefly, eyes flickering over the names and conversations, before setting it down with a soft sigh. The day was different. Today, he had decided to visit his elder brother Chuka without warning, a gesture born of impulse and a gnawing suspicion that had begun to shadow his thoughts for weeks. The two brothers had always been close, sharing childhood memories and dreams in their cramped Lagos home. But lately, Ifeanyi sensed a distance, a change in Chuka's demeanor that unsettled him deeply. As he prepared to leave, the sounds of Lagos grew louder, the rhythmic pounding of drums from a nearby festival, the sharp calls of street vendors hawking their wares, the scent of roasted plantains wafting through the air, and the distant chatter of neighbors greeting the day. The city breathed around him, a living, breathing entity full of noise and life. Ifeanyi's heart pounded with a mix of hope and apprehension. This unannounced visit could either mend the growing rift or shatter something precious. Either way, he was stepping into a moment that would alter everything. Ifeanyi's daily life was a tapestry woven with routine and resilience. Each morning, he woke before dawn, brushing off the dust of the city and the weight of his thoughts, ready to face the challenges ahead. The dim light of his small kitchen flickered as he brewed a cup of bitter Nigerian tea, the aroma mingling with the faint smell of damp cement from his clothes. His worksite was a bustling construction zone on the edge of Lagos Island, where concrete and steel met the relentless energy of a city determined to grow. The sun was unforgiving, beating down on the workers with a fierce intensity, but Ifeanyi endured, driven by a quiet ambition to build a future that could lift not only himself, but his family, from the constraints of their modest beginnings. Growing up, Ifeanyi and Chuka had shared everything. From the cramped single-room apartment their mother struggled to maintain, to the dreams whispered under the dim light of a kerosene lamp that flickered with every gust of wind. Chuka, the elder by 4 years, had always been the protector, the one who shielded Ifeanyi from the harsher realities of their neighborhood, gangs, poverty, and the pressures of a city that demanded toughness. Their bond was forged in hardship and laughter, in shared secrets and sibling rivalry that often ended in a grudging respect. But time had changed them. Chuka's marriage to Nkechi, Ifeanyi's childhood friend turned sister-in-law, had been celebrated with joy and hope. Nkechi was vibrant and warm, with a laugh that could brighten the darkest days, a comfort to both brothers in their youth. Yet over the past months, Ifeanyi had noticed subtle shifts, a guarded smile. Here, a whispered conversation cut short, a glance exchanged between Chuka and Nkechi that didn't reach his eyes, as if a private world had been built behind closed doors, excluding him. At work, Ifeanyi found solace in the physicality of his labor, the steady rhythm of hammering and lifting grounding him amid the chaos. The dust that clung to his skin and the sweat that rolled down his brow became a welcome distraction from the gnawing unease that followed him home, creeping into his thoughts like a shadow refusing to be ignored. He replayed moments that now seemed strange, the way Chuka's phone buzzed incessantly, the hurried excuses to leave gatherings early, and the way Nkechi avoided his gaze with a barely concealed anxiety. He tried to push the feelings aside, telling himself that family always had secrets, that trust was a fragile thing easily fractured by circumstance. But the seed of doubt had been planted, growing with every unanswered question. Ifeanyi knew he had to confront the truth, no matter how painful. The question was how and when. The first signs of change came subtly. It was a humid Lagos evening, the kind where the air clings heavy with moisture, and the city never truly sleeps. The street lamps cast a yellow glow over the cracked pavement, and the distant sounds of late-night traffic mingled with laughter spilling from open windows. Ifeanyi had gone to Chuka's house unannounced, expecting a casual greeting, perhaps a cup of tea and some laughter shared between brothers. Instead, the door was ajar, a sliver of light spilling onto the dusty corridor, casting long, eerie shadows. He called out softly, "Chuka? Nkechi? It's me." No answer. The air held a strange stillness, broken only by faint sounds drifting from the bedroom. The unmistakable murmur of voices, hushed and urgent. Curiosity and a creeping dread pulled him forward, the wooden floor creaking underfoot as he approached the door. His hand trembled as he pushed it open just enough to peer inside. Through the gap, Ifeanyi's eyes caught a scene that shattered his world. His brother and his wife, entwined in an intimate embrace that betrayed the trust of family bonds. The room smelled of sandalwood and sweat, a mingling of perfume and musk heavy in the air. The sounds of their closeness, a whispered name, a soft sigh, were a harsh contrast to the silent pain swelling in his chest. Frozen, Ifeanyi's mind raced. How long had this been going on? How many times had he been blind to the signs? The betrayal cut deeper than any wound, fracturing the foundation of his family. He backed away silently, the weight of the secret pressing down like the Lagos heat, thick and suffocating. That night, sleep eluded him. The image replayed relentlessly, mingling with the distant sounds of the city's nightlife, the honking of taxis, the laughter of bar patrons, the rhythmic beat of a street festival somewhere nearby. Ifeanyi knew that his life, and the lives of those he loved, would never be the same. The question was what he would do next: confront the betrayal, or let it fester in silence. By dawn, the weight of silence had become unbearable. Ifeanyi sat on the edge of his bed, the early morning light casting long shadows across the room, painting the worn walls with a soft orange glow. The faint hum of the city waking up seeped through the cracked window, distant calls to prayer blending with the stirrings of street vendors setting up for the day. The decision to confront his brother was no longer a choice but a necessity. The trust that once bound them was fractured, and the truth demanded reckoning. He picked up his phone, scrolling through old messages between Chuka and Nkechi, seeking answers in their words. The texts were cryptic, filled with coded affection and secret plans that twisted the knife deeper. Each message deepened the wound, painting a picture of deceit that was impossible to ignore. Ifeanyi's hands trembled as he read, the betrayal palpable, even through the cold, glowing screen. Determined, he dressed quickly in his usual work clothes and set out for Chuka's house once more, this time ready to face the storm. The streets of Lagos buzzed with life, but Ifeanyi moved with a singular purpose, his heart pounding like the drums of a distant festival. The metallic clang of construction sites, the honking of danfos, and the chatter of early risers blurred into a background hum as he rehearsed what he would say, how he would demand the truth and demand justice for the family he loved. As he approached the familiar door, a mixture of anger, hurt, and hope churned within him. This confrontation could either destroy or heal. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain. But Ifeanyi was resolved. He would not let betrayal define him. Whatever happened next, he would face it with courage. The door creaked open before he could knock, and there stood Chuka, eyes wide with surprise and something else. Guilt? Fear? The moment had arrived. The fragile balance of brotherhood was about to be tested in the heart of Lagos, beneath the fading shadows of a once unbreakable bond. The tension in the small living room was suffocating. The faint smell of stale smoke and lingering cooking spices hung in the air, mixing with the heavy silence that stretched between them. Ifeanyi's voice was steady but edged with pain as he asked, "Why, Chuka? Why would you do this to me, to Nkechi, to us?" Chuka's face fell, the bravado gone, replaced by a weary exhaustion that seemed to settle deep within his eyes. He avoided eye contact, swallowing hard as if trying to keep the words lodged inside. Nkechi appeared behind Chuka, her eyes red-rimmed, betraying nights of tears and turmoil. Her hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. "Ifeanyi," she whispered, "it's not what you think." But Ifeanyi shook his head, pain cutting through his disbelief like a jagged blade. "I saw everything. On our matrimonial bed, Chuka. How long has this been going on?" The words hung heavy in the air like a tangible weight. Chuka's silence was answer enough. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the truth spilled out in fragmented confessions. The affair had been months long, a secret that had poisoned their family from within. Ifeanyi's heart ached, not just for himself but for the woman he had once considered a sister, a childhood friend who had become family. Yet beneath the betrayal, a flicker of something else emerged, remorse. Chuka's voice cracked as he apologized, begging for forgiveness that seemed impossible to grant. Nkechi's tears flowed freely, her betrayal a mirror of Ifeanyi's own shattered trust, her sobs quiet but wrenching. In that moment, Ifeanyi realized that confronting the pain was the first step toward healing. The path ahead would be difficult, filled with anger and sorrow, but silence would only deepen the wounds. He had to decide whether to sever the ties or to find a way to rebuild. Days passed, but the atmosphere between the brothers and Nkechi remained heavy, as if an invisible wall had been erected between them. The once familiar laughter and easy conversations were replaced by tense silences and cautious glances. Ifeanyi struggled to reconcile the image of the brother he knew with the man who had betrayed him. Every interaction was laced with awkwardness and unspoken words, the air thick with unresolved pain. At work, his mind wandered, distracted by the turmoil at home. The sounds of the city, car horns blaring, market vendors shouting, and distant music from a nearby party, felt distant, muted by the storm within. His friends noticed his silence. Their concerned looks met with vague reassurances, but he kept his pain private, unsure who to trust with such a fragile secret. Nkechi reached out cautiously, attempting to explain herself, revealing cracks in their marriage that had left her vulnerable to Chuka's misguided affection. Their shared history was complicated, filled with misunderstandings, unmet needs, and moments of loneliness that had grown over time. Ifeanyi listened, torn between anger and sympathy, the complexity of human frailty laid bare before him. The matrimonial bed, the very place of sacred union, had become a symbol of broken promises. It haunted Ifeanyi, a physical reminder of betrayal and the fragility of trust. He found himself avoiding the house, the memories too raw and the pain too sharp to face daily. Yet amid the pain, a resolve began to grow within him. Ifeanyi understood that healing required confronting the past, not running from it. He needed to dig deeper, to understand not just the betrayal but the reasons behind it. Only then could they begin to rebuild what was lost. With time, conversations slowly replaced silence. Tentative meetings, arranged over cups of bitter tea and shared meals, became moments of honesty and reckoning. Ifeanyi, Chuka, and Nkechi began to meet, not as enemies, but as flawed human beings seeking understanding. The process was messy and painful, filled with tears, raised voices, and moments of fragile hope that flickered like candlelight in the darkness. Ifeanyi discovered layers beneath the betrayal, pressures from work that left Chuka exhausted and irritable, loneliness that crept in during long nights, and unmet expectations that had eroded their relationships. Chuka confessed to feeling trapped by societal expectations and his own fears. his mistakes a desperate, misguided attempt to find escape from his burdens. Nkechi admitted to her own failings, the emotional distance that had grown between her and Chuka, the silence that had become a chasm. The matrimonial bed, once a place of intimacy and joy, had become a battleground of silence and resentment. Through these painful revelations, Ifeanyi's heart softened. He began to see that forgiveness was not about forgetting, but about choosing to move forward despite the scars. The brothers shared memories of childhood laughter and dreams, rekindling the bonds that had once seemed irreparably broken. The path to healing was uncertain, but for the first time in months, Ifeanyi felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that even the deepest wounds could begin to mend with honesty and love. One evening, as Lagos settled into the warm embrace of dusk, Ifeanyi sat with Chuka and Nkechi on the worn sofa in the living room, the faint smell of akara and fried fish lingering in the air, mingling with the earthy scent of rain-dampened dust outside. The city's distant hum was a comforting backdrop to their fragile peace. The chirp of crickets, the distant honking of cars, and the occasional laughter from neighbors. Ifeanyi spoke softly, choosing his words with care. We are all broken in some way, but our strength lies in facing those fractures together. His words were met with nods and quiet agreement. They shared stories of pain and resilience, finding strength in vulnerability, revealing fears and hopes that had long been buried. The matrimonial bed, once a symbol of betrayal, now represented a turning point. They agreed to seek counseling, to rebuild trust brick by brick. It was not an easy road, but Ifeanyi realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to confront it head-on. The city lights flickered on, casting a golden glow through the window and highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air. In that moment, amidst the ruins of betrayal, a fragile new foundation was being laid. Ifeanyi felt a quiet determination. This was not the end of their story, but the beginning of transformation. Just as hope began to take root, a new crisis threatened to unravel the fragile peace. Rumors began circulating in their neighborhood. Whispers of the affair had leaked, twisting the truth and spreading like wildfire through Surulère's tight-knit community. The words carried on the wind like poisonous seeds, turning neighbors into gossipers and friends into distant acquaintances. Ifeanyi faced the sting of judgment and gossip, neighbors' eyes heavy with pity or disdain, their hushed tones following him through the streets. The betrayal felt public now, the pain multiplied by the scrutiny of a community quick to judge. Chuka withdrew, burdened by shame and self-reproach, while Nkechi struggled to hold on to her dignity amidst the growing scandal. The matrimonial bed, once private, had become a symbol of scandal and broken trust. Ifeanyi wrestled with anger and despair, questioning whether forgiveness was possible under such scrutiny. The weight of community expectations pressed down, threatening to crush their fragile hope and the tentative steps toward healing. Yet amid the storm, Ifeanyi found an unexpected ally, a childhood friend who reminded him that resilience was forged in adversity. With renewed resolve, Ifeanyi prepared to face not only his family's pain but the judgment of the world around them, determined to reclaim their story. The fallout was harsh but illuminating. Ifeanyi stood firm as the neighborhood buzzed with speculation, refusing to let gossip dictate his family's future. He confronted Chuka and Nkechi, urging transparency and honesty, even in the face of public scrutiny and whispered condemnations. Together they navigated the complex emotions and social pressures, attending counseling sessions and community meetings to rebuild their reputations and relationships. The matrimonial bed, once a site of betrayal, became a place of reconciliation and renewed commitment, a testament to their willingness to face the consequences together. Ifeanyi's leadership and courage galvanized the family, turning pain into purpose. They worked to restore trust, not just within their home, but with the community that had watched their story unfold. The journey was ongoing, marked by setbacks and small victories, but each step forward was a testament to their resilience. In the heart of Lagos, beneath the relentless sun and endless noise, Ifeanyi learned that healing was a process, one that required patience, strength, and unwavering hope. Months later, Ifeanyi prepared for a final confrontation, not with anger, but with clarity. The once fractured family had begun to heal, but old wounds still ached beneath the surface like ghosts refusing to fade. He knew that true resolution required honest dialogue and courage, a willingness to face pain without flinching. The matrimonial bed, draped in fresh linens and bathed in soft afternoon light, stood as a silent witness to their journey. Ifeanyi rehearsed his thoughts, determined to speak from the heart, to bridge the gap between past pain and future peace. He met with Chuka and Nkechi in the quiet coolness of the evening, the city's distant lights flickering through the window like stars. The air was thick with anticipation, but Ifeanyi's voice was steady as he opened his heart to the possibility of wholeness. This was their moment, to confront the past with compassion, to choose forgiveness over resentment, and to rebuild the bonds that betrayal had threatened to destroy. The conversation unfolded with raw honesty, the room filled with the weight of unspoken emotions finally given voice. Ifeanyi laid bare his hurt and hopes, expressing the depth of betrayal and the desire for healing that had sustained him through the darkest days. Chuka and Nkechi responded with tears and apologies, acknowledging their mistakes and the pain caused not only to Ifeanyi but to themselves. The matrimonial bed, central to their story, became a symbol of their shared commitment to rebuild. They spoke of boundaries, trust, and the future they wanted to create, not just as individuals, but as a family united by choice and courage. The air was heavy with emotion, but also with a fragile hope. The confrontation was not a battle but a beginning, a step toward transformation. In the heart of Lagos, amidst the noise and chaos, three souls chose forgiveness and courage over despair. In the weeks that followed, Ifeanyi, Chuka, and Nkechi worked tirelessly to mend their fractured relationship. They attended therapy together, shared meals filled with tentative laughter, and rebuilt the fragile trust that betrayal had shattered. The process was slow and often painful, but each small step forward was a victory. The matrimonial bed, once a site of pain, became a place of renewed intimacy and understanding. It was no longer a symbol of broken promises, but of commitment to growth and healing. The city outside continued its relentless pace, but within their home, a new rhythm emerged, one of patience, love, and resilience. Ifeanyi found strength in vulnerability, realizing that healing was a journey shared. The bonds of brotherhood and marriage, though tested, proved resilient, capable of withstanding even the harshest storms. Hope blossomed in the heart of Lagos, a testament to the power of forgiveness and the courage to face even the deepest wounds. The sun rose again over Lagos, casting warm light on a city that never truly slept. The air was alive with the sounds of a new day, laughter of children playing in the street, the calls of street vendors hawking their fresh produce, and the distant rhythm of drums that spoke of life's enduring beat. Ifeanyi stood by the window of his brother's home, the familiar sounds of life filling the air like a comforting embrace. The matrimonial bed lay peacefully in the room behind him, a quiet symbol of a journey from betrayal to healing. Its freshly washed sheets gleamed softly in the morning light, a silent witness to the family's transformation. Ifeanyi felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that while scars remained, they no longer defined them. The family had been broken, but they were not defeated. Together, they had found a new balance, a fragile, beautiful harmony born of courage, resilience, and hope. As Lagos thrummed with endless possibility, Ifeanyi stepped forward, ready to face whatever the future held, strengthened by the bonds that had endured and the love that had survived the darkest shadows.